Hello, my dear young students. Today I will discuss about entity relationship model, which is a very important part of database management system. Uh, in this fifth class, we will discuss about number one, entity, number two, attribute, and number three, a relationship. So let us start with entity. So entity is basically a thing or an object that exists in real world and that is distinguishable from other objects in the universe. For example, a person Ajay with Aadhaar number 2222 is an entity. Here Ajay is uniquely identified as a unique person in the universe from another person. Then second is types of entity. There are two types of entity. Number one is called concrete, that is of physical existence. And number two is called abstract, that is of conceptual existence. Example of concrete entity is, for example, book, car, etc. And example of abstract entity is like holiday, job, etc. Then entity set. Entity set is basically a set of entities of same type, that is of similar type. Say for example, in a bank, we can say all the persons having an account at a bank is an entity set, right? Then number two, attributes. An attribute is basically a characteristic or a property that describe an entity. Or in another word, we can say that entity is basically represented by set of attributes. For example, suppose we have a student entity set, and in student entity set we have attribute his name, city, and marks. Then types of attributes. Number one is of simple attribute. Simple attribute is also known as an atomic attribute, which cannot be further divided. For example, roll number of a student cannot be further divided, or enrollment number of a student, which is again cannot be further divided. Second is called composite attribute. Composite attribute which can be further divided. It can be further divided. For example, name of any student or any person can be divided into three main parts: first name, a middle name, and last name. Number three, single valued attribute. As the name suggests, single valued attribute means an attribute having a single value or an atomic value. For example, Aadhaar number of any person is having a single value. Fourth is multi-valued attribute. A multi-valued attribute contains more than one values. For example, a person can have more than 1 degree, or we can say that a person can have more than one mobile phones, or a person can have more than one email numbers or email addresses. Fifth is called derived attribute. Derived attribute, there are certain conditions where one attribute is dependent on another attribute. So values are derived from stored attribute in case of derived attribute. And a stored attribute is basically stored in our database. For example, age, if we want to find out the age of any person, it can be derived only from his date of birth attribute. So here age is called the derived attribute and date of birth is called a stored attribute, right? Then domain. Every attribute has a set of permitted values, and these set of permitted values is known as domain. For example, for name attribute, the domain are Raj, Kapil, and Ajay, as shown in figure. So in this table, we have name, city, and marks are attributes, while for name attribute, Raj, Kapil, and Ajay is called a domain. Similarly, for city attribute, Delhi, Noida, and Ghaziabad is domain for city attribute. Similarly, 30, 40, and 50 are a domain for marks attributes. The next is relationship and relationship set. A relationship is nothing, it is basically a link among several entities, or In other words, we can say that association among several entities. Say for example, we have two entity set, one is of customer and another is of loan. So here customer have an attribute name and loan having an attribute loan number. So each entity of a name attribute, which is Raj, Ajay and Kapil, is associated with each entity of loan entity set with the help of loan number attribute, as it is clear from the figure. Raj is associated with loan number L1, Ajay is associated with loan number L2, and Kapil is associated with loan number L3. And next is relationship set. Relationship set is nothing, it is a set of relationships of same type. As it is clear from the figure, relationship set can be represented with the help of a table where the customer attribute can directly be associated with loan attribute with the help of relationship set. That relationship set may be the name of customer loan.